Well, see, my boyfriend and I, we've been living together and dating for 2 years. And we're not, I wouldn't necessarily call us an interfaith relationship, but my boyfriend lacks a relationship with God in general, or just lacks a hunger for it in the way that I do. And so my question for you was just, what's your your advice, I guess, your thoughts?
Thank you, Lila. Listen, can I be a super straight shooter with you? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I think the number one thing, you're a woman of God, right? Your faith is important to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. If you're living together, that is the first space where you can't properly discern this marriage, potential future marriage. You can't discern this relationship properly if you're living together.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I know
It does add a certain level of complication to things.
Yeah, because God's way is, in God's plan, we don't live together before marriage. We don't have sex before marriage. And that is for a reason, so that we have the clarity of mind and heart to be able to discern, is this the right person for me, right?
Right.
So, my first advice is you can't discern what you're trying to figure out right now. The way you're living your life right now, it makes it not possible for you to really figure this out because you guys are living together.
Yeah.
And I know that's tough.
Yeah.
How long have you two been together for?
2 years.
And how long living together?
A year and a half.
Yeah, that's a lot of time to be very close to someone like that.
Yeah, it is. And what's interesting about it, though, is that we haven't really had any issues. And I expressed with him, when we first met, how important my faith was to me, and how I'm, was looking for someone to really commit to me. And it seems that just faith isn't off the table for him. It's just something that I, I don't know.
But he's not committed to you, right? I mean, he's living with you, but you're not married.
Well, yeah, but the only reason why we're not engaged is because his in marriage is our intent. The only reason we're not engaged is to honor the wishes of his parents, which is that he doesn't propose to anyone until after he's done with school.
Got it. Do you and your faith, when you're living together with someone, obviously, a core part of our faith is sex belonging within marriage. How do you see that, and how does he see that?
Well, I see our partnership as one that's committed, and so we do have sex in our relationship. And yeah, I don't feel really convicted to stop that because of the nature of our commitment.
Meaning you're saying you feel like you're married even though you're not married yet, so that in your conscience you're telling yourself it's as if we're married.
Yes.
Well, the thing with marriage is, according to scripture, is that this is something that you've publicly pledged each other to before friends and family, right? And it sounds like his parents are not comfortable with that. It sounds like.
Yeah, well, they come from a little bit more of a secular worldview, where they just think that he should focus on school, and that should be his number one priority until he has his degree. And after that, they couldn't care less.
Right. But I think if at the end of the day, you need a man who is going to do what's best for you as a married couple and your potential future children, right? And that he's not going to listen first to mom and dad if that's getting in the way of what's best for you as his potential wife, right? You want that man who's going to put you first and not have his parents be getting in the way of your relationship.
Right.
So, my just being a very straight shooter is this is not something I believe you can discern when you're living together and sleeping together, because you don't have that clarity of mind, and you're right now living outside of God's plan. Even though you feel like you're married to him, even though he might feel that way too, you guys aren't married. And so I know this is tough to hear because you've moved in together, you're building this, you're very intertwined here, but until you're married, right? You're not married.
Right.
And again, God's grace, like he will give you the grace. God will give you the wisdom, but you got to go to him and say, God, do you approve of how I'm living right now?
Right.
And so, that's one thing I think we got to figure out. And then the other thing, the bigger question about, is this the guy for you to marry, right? Because you're not married. A big question to ask yourself, is this the man that can lead you and your children spiritually?
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, even in the conversations we've had about, when we talk about parenting, we agree that we've really come to the conclusion that it's important for our children to see a loving partnership, even if our expressions of our faith might differ. And he would never disrespect or denigrate or denounce the name of Christ in front of me or our kids or anyone. He has a lot of respect for our religion, and he's interested in it. He's just not passionate about it the way that I am. But him and I believe that the strength of our relationship and the love that we share would speak volumes to our children, whether or not we display the same passion for Christ.
Do you think he can be a leader, though, in helping your children have faith and going to church and making that a part of your life, the truths of your faith? It's not just that he respects your faith, but do you think he would actively help encourage the children to be raised in faith?
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's what we've at least spoken about.
So here's the thing. I think this guy sounds like he cares about you a lot. It sounds like he has a lot of, qualities that you obviously love and admire. To really figure this out, though, you need to have space where you're living God's plan. Because even though sometimes our ways, it's like, this is convenient for me, this is comfortable for me, we love each other, we're together, we feel like we're married. Like I said, you're not married. So there's two things to figure out here, right? There's the question of, should I marry him? Is he the guy to marry, lifelong partner forever, until death do us part? And then the other question is, what do I do with the fact that we're living together and that's not God's plan to live together before marriage, right? Those are two questions. And I would say, to answer that second question of should we marry, having a separation where you're living with chastity, you're not having sex, you're not doing what married people do because you're not married yet. So you can fully discern and decide, is this the one I'm going to marry? And then marry them, then you can have that intimacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think, Lila, is a good action plan moving forward?
Well, my boyfriend and I are gonna listen to this show when it's finally posted, and we're gonna talk about. Our lease is up in June, so it's possible for us to have like separate bedrooms, but it's not really possible for us to stop living together because I can't afford to live in this city that I live in without a roommate or help.
Do you have, is there oftentimes there's houses or other apartments where you can share an apartment, share a house? Are there other girls related to your church or others that have a shared apartment or a house?
Yeah, we could look into that.
Because having your own place can be expensive, but I remember I rented a room, a room in a lady's house with a bunch of other rooms, and that keeps costs down.
Right.
Here's a question for you, Lila, and again, I'm so grateful to talk with you. Do you know some of the background about why sex can cloud judgment? Like when you're sexually intimate with someone, why that can cloud judgment about that person and the relationship?
Well, I mean, I've experienced it firsthand. I before I was saved, played the harlot, if you will. So I understand that it complicates things significantly, but if you'd like to enlighten me, I'm all ears.
Well, listen, God created us with our minds so that we can think, and our will so that we can choose. So he wants you to have good judgment and clear judgment because he loves you. God's your father. He loves you so much. He loves us. And when we have sex with someone, it's designed it floods our body with oxytocin. It's designed to bond us with that person, make us feel like this is my one and only, because that's what sex is for. It's for that one and only in a marriage till death to us part. And then it's also designed, as you know, of course, you can bring babies into the world, which is hugely intimate and unifying. Like, this is our child now, right? So, for God's girls, you're God's girl, you're God's woman. And for his women, he has a plan, and it can be a really tough one, right? It's saying, don't have sex unless you're married. And it's not just don't have sex, it's pursue chastity, right? Which is loving this person as God wants you to love them, right? And before marriage, the way to love someone is to respect chastity and have that physical separation where you're not sexually involved with them, because they're not your husband, right? At least not yet. And so I would just encourage, you can certainly listen to this show, but you already heard what I said, you could listen to it again later, but I can tell you're a very smart woman, you're a woman of conviction. And, I think, at the end of the day, God's way is, it's there for a reason, to save sex for marriage. So, I just want to, ask one more time, is there any other kind of action item or action plan that you can see coming out of this call?
I mean, my boyfriend and I are definitely going to have a good talk about everything that you and I talked about, and, we're in the perfect position right now to do what you're talking about with a little bit of separation, because we're moving soon. So we'll talk about that.
Let me give you two more things, Lila, if I may. One of them is a quick story for you. So someone very close to me, like a little sister to me, she was living with her boyfriend. At one point she wanted to follow God, but she was, they felt like they loved each other. They were very connected with each other. They were moved in together, and she got convicted. At first she wasn't convicted. She thought, oh, we love each other, we want to get married. But she really thought about it, and she looked at what God says about marriage and sex, and she got convicted, and she did something really difficult. She moved out. They separated. They ended up getting married. They ended, he respected that decision in the end, and that showed his care for her, that he respected that being sexually pure before marriage was crucial. And of course, once you're married, you're still sexually pure, but you're now sexually intimate, right? The sex is where it belongs. But she moved out. And it was hard. It was not fun, but she felt peace because she knew she was living God's way, and God blessed that obedience and brought them together again. When they got married, they had an amazing honeymoon. They got to move back in together. They have multiple children now, and God has really blessed that obedience. So I want to encourage you that God will bless your obedience even when it's difficult. And the second thing I'm going to tell you is go pray. Go before God and say, God, give me your wisdom and convict my heart to want to follow your law and be your disciple, be your follower. And do you have a good spiritual mentor or guide?
Not really.
I think that's going to be key for you, because we're not meant to do this alone. Are you involved with a church?
I go to a Catholic church maybe twice a month.
Awesome. Well, I would go and have you met the priest there, or have you been involved with any of the groups there? Do you know anybody that goes to that church?
Yeah, I've got some friends there. They've got like a college age service at 8 o'clock p.m., which is really nice, for the night owls.
Amazing. When you go, I want you to go there this Sunday, and I want you to talk to the leader. Is there a leader of it that you've met before, you've seen?
Yeah, there's like a priest for the youth group.
Amazing. I want you to go and say, Father, can I talk to you? I need to talk to you. And I want you to tell him what you're dealing with. And I want you to go to confession, ask him to hear your confession, but ask him to help you with that confession, because confession is like balm for the soul. I go to confession every week. We need confession as Catholics, right? And I want you to ask him to help you and give you guidance, because these are big decisions you're making, right? This is your life. This is your future. So can you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
That's great advice. I don't know why I hadn't thought of that.
Amazing. God loves you, and he wants you back at mass too on Sundays. That he wants you. He wants to be close. You know, God is with you always, of course, but he wants us to come to him, and he's waiting for you in the mass, you know, in the Eucharist. And that priest, he set up that priest in your life to help you. And you're God's girl. He loves you. He wants you to get all the help you need. We good?
Yeah, I ultimately trust that the Lord has my troubles on his thoughts, and I just pray that he'll either bless our union and let us prosper and be fruitful together, or the Lord will rebuke our relationship and prune us from one another, however hard that might be. But I'm praying for you, Lila. I hope you pray for me. I really appreciate you taking my call.
Lila, I'm going to definitely pray for you, sister, and send me an email if you would, if you would like to, after you talk with this priest.
I'll send you an update.
Let me know, okay? Praying for you.
All right. Thank
God
you.
bless
Bye.
you.